Hello, everybody. What does roller skating in LA, Ringo Starr, Tom Perry, T-shirts, and of course, the idiom, no rush, no waiting, no fail, have in common? Hello, I'm Carina from Break Fear, Find Freedom. And the answer to that, I think we'll give to Dave Greene, my awesome guest today. Hello, Dave. How are you today?
I am doing good, Carina. I'm doing good. Yourself?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Dave, tell us a bit about who is Dave and, well, let's speak about how all these things mesh together to make Dave Greene.
Oh, man. I'll be talking about all the things in the universe that match together to me.
Well, maybe we should start with you. I've got this vision of you roller skating in LA. I've never been to LA, right? But I've just got this vision, and it's like such a cool vision, right? With you roller skating through LA, I don't know, maybe Sunset Boulevard, and
most of it is done in the well, when I started skating in LA, but I came to LA from New York. I was living in New York for a while, and I came to LA in like '94. So around 90, I want to say 97. I found the roller skating scene, which was happening in Venice. It was on Venice on the beach. And the guys would be skating and dancing out there. So I fell in love with it, and that's when that came about. But roller skating is just one of the expressions where, I mean, it's home.
Yes. Okay, I did get a bit sidetracked on that one. Tell us about who Dave Greene is.
Huh?
Who's Dave Greene?
Well, Dave Greene is something that somebody that this guy is still trying to figure out who he is.
I know the question of the universe, right?
Yeah. It's an ever-growing thing. But I can start from the last 20 years. From what you mentioned up front. The last 20 years I've been involved in the rock and roll industry, and I got into the industry as a technician, as an instrument technician, and one of the reasons that I went into the industry, I mean, I was a musician before that, but I went into the industry to get an education. I wanted to find out how guys did things on the bigger scale. Yes. So going in as a technician was my entrance point. And I mean, I could say the education that I got was just something, if I had to pay for it, I could not afford it.
I'm sure, right? I mean, so who did you, I know, because I know you mentioned that you played with some people or you met some people. How did that come about? All these?
Well, before I got into the industry as a technician, I mean, the last position that I had as a job, I was working at a company called Mueller Shields, and I was doing market research there. And that was just about the longest job I ever held, which was 11 months. which was very long for me because I mean, before that, I mean, I did graphics. I was a graphic designer, and so it was basically graphic design and sales. But when I got into Mueller Shields and I got just about 11 months, they started giving me all of the insurance and the benefits and that sort of thing. And I said to myself, if I accept this, I'm going to be here like 11 years.
Yes.
So I decided to bail. and I gave him 2 weeks. And I didn't have anything lined up at all. I gave him 2 weeks because, I mean, working in a cubicle just was not my thing.
Sure, yes.
So after I bailed, I was looking through a little magazine, one of the magazines that came in the mail, and it had all of the different courses that the county was offering.
Mm-hmm.
And they were offering a course on stage technicians, a stage technician course.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading the course, and it was saying that, they taught you about microphones, instruments, recording consoles, lighting, and there was just a long, long list. And at the bottom of it, they had the price. So with all these things they were teaching, the price said $40.
Wow.
I said, man, this has got to be some BS. So I said, oh, let me call and find out what's going on. So I called up, and the guy on the other end of the phone, he answered it Joe's Garage. Okay.
That is funny.
So I'm thinking, okay, Joe's Garage is some greasy hole in the wall place, mechanics working. So he said, well, why don't you just come on down and check it out? So, I mean, it wasn't too far from me. So I went over there and checked it out. And when I walked into this place, you know what it happened to be?
What was it?
It was Frank Zappa's soundstage.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Because Frank had an album called Joe's Garage.
Oh, yes.
And the soundstage was also called Joe's Garage. And this is where Frank did all of his rehearsals in town. It was, full on, a full on soundstage. So they had the classes going on there. But when Frank died, he put it in his will that they should put together a school for technicians because he was tired of paying for the learning curve.
Oh, yes.
So they offered it for free to high school students, but
Wow.
adults would have to pay $40. But I'll tell you, this was one of the best schools that I've ever been to in that respect, because I remember when they were teaching us about guitars, it was about 30 of us in the class, and when we did guitars, each person had a guitar that we had to disassemble it.
Yes.
We had to take off the strings, take off the neck, take off the pickups, break the whole thing apart and put it back together.
Whoa, yes.
And within those 2 days, I learned more about a guitar than the 30 years that I've been messing around with the guitar. So that was my launch into the as a stage technician. My very first position was with an artist by the name of Kebmo, Kebmo, and he's a contemporary blues artist, but a Grammy award-winning artist. I mean, amazing cat. And that was my first tour, so that's how I got in.
Wow. So that was exciting. It shows you how you took the plunge, and it's just as well you moved away from that cubicle. I mean, you must have been afraid, though, to take the plunge, or just was freedom more important to you at that point? I mean, I know it's a long time ago, but it's just interesting.
Well, it was very fearful, and I'm kind of going through the same thing now again. So I mean, it has come up again, but the freedom is very important to me. I mean, yes. I've always had that, sense of not being locked down or not being involved in anything that has a ceiling.
Yes.
Because if anything that has a ceiling, I mean, I hit my head and it hurts.
Right.
but the jumping off, I mean, the jumping off was it was something I had to do. I mean, back then I was making like I think it was like $600 every 2 weeks, which was not a whole lot. That was in 97, somewhere around there. And I remember the very first gig that I got. I mean, the I think it was up to like $1,000 a week plus per diem. So
it was worth the jump, right?
It was worth the jump without having anything lined up. So,
well, that's exciting. So now you were saying that you're going through the same thing now. What's happening now that you're going through the same kind of process that you did back then?
Well, being in I was in that industry for just about 18 years, and I didn't intend to be there that long because, again, the reason I went into it was for the education. But the job was so cushy for 18 years. I mean, it was amazingly and cushy that I stayed for 18 years. But when the pandemic happened, the whole live entertainment industry shut down.
Yeah.
So at that time, I looked at it as a forced graduation. But the really scary thing was that, you know, all of the things that I've learned over those 18 years, being around the people that I've been with, now I'm faced with relying only on myself, and that's the scary part.
Right.
I mean, when it comes to, you know, being able to be just totally confident in myself and jump out on my own. It's a pretty powerful thing.
Yes.
It's a pretty powerful thing.
Yes. And it's a process. So how are you coping with that? And because I know the pandemic just hit a lot of people, and there was so much pivoting that people had to do because suddenly everything changed and we stuck like on our own and say, now what?
Huh?
So what did you do? What are you doing now?
Well, right now, I've got a couple of things I'm in the process of doing. I mean, I'm setting up a record company and a publishing company here. I mean, behind me, I'm in my studio here, which I kind of built over the years.
It's a beautiful studio, just by the way, sorry.
Oh, thank you. Well, a lot of the times, I mean, I worked in a lot of the studios in Los Angeles, a lot of the big studios in Los Angeles, tuning drums on records. So I would sit with the producers, the engineers, I would sit in the rooms with the band and pretty much see what they do, see what they use, and come home. And as much as my budget can possibly spare, I would buy the equipment. So I would have it here. So, and of course, with the graphics, I mean, I've been doing that since I was 19 years old. And I actually did have a screen printing operation at one point, where I printed T-shirts and things like that. So that kind of what led into launching the T-shirt brand also. So it's music and graphics. Now, what was the question? Did I answer the question? There's going to be a lot of that.
We were saying, like, what have you done? Because I know you've got like a really cool brand, T-shirt brand. So how did you come up with that idea? Because obviously, is it something that was brewing, or was it something that the pandemic pushed you into, hey, well, now I'm going to make T-shirts?
Well, both. Because T-shirts was always something that I was doing. I mean, when I had the plant, it was called Celebrity Screen Printing, and I actually started it in New York.
Okay.
I had a full-on business. I think I had maybe about 5 to 7 employees at a time.
Oh, nice. Yes.
And then I moved it to California, in Burbank. But then the the chemicals and things that I was working with, they started getting to my lungs. So I had ended up selling it. So, but designing T-shirts was always a passion of mine. So one of the things that I figured once the industry shut down, I needed to focus on something that I can scale really fast. So that's where street style T-shirts came in. Streetstylet-shirts.com. That's when that came into place.
Yes, and we'll have a link in the description box because they're such beautiful designs, and it's like so out there and different. So yeah, it's a pity we should have had some to show, but that's fine. Just check out the link at the bottom of the description box.
Well, there's one right there.
I can't see.
There's one right there.
Oh, there it is.
I'll pull it up for you. This is one of them.
Ah, yes.
And
I love that.
And these are more like peace themed design. One of the main, not the main, but the very first collection we launched is called the Radiate Peace Collection. So they're all peace themed designs, which is something around this time we can use a little bit of. Right.
I think in so many aspects, and the inner peace is good because there's so much conflict within ourselves as well with everything that's happening, I'm sure. So
that's where it starts, you know. I mean, it starts with each of us as an individual, you know, finding that peace within ourselves and let that radiate instead of going around fixing things.
Right. If we can just realize that there's nothing to fix, just look at yourself and do what you need to do. So, is that the inspiration for the T-shirts? Was that
Say that again?
Was that the inspiration for the T-shirts?
Well, truthfully, no. Yes and no. I mean, for some reason, I like designing the working with the peace theme, and that was just coming out at the moment. I mean, I've got some other ones that are lined up that are in the works. I've got one that's called Music Matters, which is a music theme collection. And I've also got, of course, a roller skating theme collection.
You have to have the roller skating theme collection.
but the main thing is it's just having very cool looking clothing. These are cool looking design.
Yes. So do you like sit down and think about it, or is it something that's just inspired, or how do you come up with the designs?
Well, both ways. I mean, sometimes a lot of them I draw on the iPad, and when I draw it on the iPad, it's pretty much spontaneous. Some of those designs are I remember there was one that was a music clef that I did, and actually I did one actually for Tom Petty. He wore one of my T-shirts.
That is so cool.
and the time it took to do the actual artwork. In fact, this one I did on my phone, on my iPhone. It took about 5 to 10 seconds.
Wow.
Because it was just, bam, and it was done. And I remember.
Sorry, you were saying, sorry?
No, I remember when I gave it to him, I had messaged his wife Dana, and I said, what size does Tom work? Because what size does Tom wear? Because we were in the studio, and I didn't want to ask him. So she told me what it is, and I made it, and I brought it to him, and he opened it up for me, and I remember he was just so happy, and he folded it up and he put it on the table, and I remember him telling his guy, hey, Mark, make sure I remember to take my T-shirt when I leave, okay? And then about a week later, usually when we do the sessions, the technicians, there are about 9 of us in the room with the band, and I usually wait outside for my guy. I was servicing the drummer, so I usually wait outside for him to show up. This way, if he needs anything, I can, help out with.
Yes,
and Tom's car rolls up, it's a black Mercedes, and he steps out with the T-shirt. I'm like, whoa!
Oh wow!
So that was very cool.
That was very, very cool, right?
Yeah.
So, did anyone else famous wear any of your T-shirts?
Yes. Joe Walsh of the Eagles.
Whoa!
Because I was actually touring. Well, I toured with Joe Walsh a number of times. The first time I think was somewhere around in the 90s, because Joe put together a band where he used Tom Petty's drummer, and his name is Steve Ferroni. So that's the first time I actually worked with Joe, and I was a technician on that tour. And I think there was another time, but in 2012, Joe did he did a tour called the Analog Man Tour, because that was his album, The Analog Man. And on that tour, which is a story we'll probably get to, but he actually asked me to play percussion on that tour.
Whoa, that was exciting.
Oh man, that was amazing. It was amazing. But I showed, Joe always liked the shirts that I wore on the tour, because I designed shirts for myself that I would wear. So he asked me to show him what else I got. So I showed him a number of designs I have, and he picked like 17 of them. Okay. So he's got like 17 of them.
Well, that was exciting. So how long was the tour, and how long? So did you play every night on this tour?
Well, just about, I want to say 5 times a week was probably tops. Because those guys, I mean, they'll do shows like 3 or 4 times a week. They don't push it like the young bands.
Yeah.
But I want to say 3 to 5 times a week was like tops.
So how did you feel like playing with these big boys?
Oh man! Well, that was an education in itself, because for me coming in, I mean, I was like the new guy, so I had to keep up with them, but they were extremely supportive. I mean, Joe would with the band, Joe would kind of coach the band in the rehearsals. And he'll share with everybody, what and how to play to get them to the next level.
Wow.
And Joe is not a guy that talks a lot, but when he does talk, my ears are like this. Because the gems that come out, I mean, these seasoned players or these seasoned artists, I mean, all of them, I mean, when they talk, I mean, if you listen to them, it takes their game from wherever it is and pops it up, to their level. So that was a part of the education.
Yes.
In fact, we opened up for, on that tour, we opened up for Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. So we were doing basically stadiums, which was like 20,000 people a night. Doing sheds. I mean, they were big shows.
Wow.
So being on the stage, which was a first for me, and that size, it was amazing.
Amazing. The energy, what was the energy like with all those people playing for all those people? Must have been quite amazing.
Yes, there's a lot of times, the audience, the audience perspective is very different from being on the stage.
Yeah.
Because when you're on the stage, I mean, you have all of this energy coming at you, and you're in this little corner. so it's actually something to feed off of. I mean, it's really cool.
Yes. And how did you feel afterwards? I'm sure you were like so hyped up after all that energy that was just given to you that I'm sure you didn't even want to sleep after the shows, right?
Well, yes and no. Because I mean, they knew me as I'm the guy that, you know, after the show when we get on the bus to travel. I mean, these are sleeper buses.
Yes.
You know, they have like we have like what they call like condo bunks in the bus, and there's like I think there's like 8 or 9 of them, and they know me as the guy to be the first one into bed, and I got my thing and clothes, and I'm in bed. Everybody else is in the lounge having fun. So I go right to sleep.
Well, that's good. You were taking care of yourself. That's a very good thing.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. That's so exciting. Were you ever afraid at that point? I mean, like, it must have been a big thing to just be thrown into this band and say, okay, play. I mean, how did you feel? Were you afraid, or was it something that you just started playing and, oh, well, disappeared because you were in your zone?
Well, being on stage is one of the things that I'm fearless with. It's kind of always been that way. I mean, I'm fearful of other things. Being on stage is not one of them. But public speaking is not one of them. Death is not one of them. I don't have those fears. I have fears of. My fear comes mostly with how would I put it? Stepping into my own full self.
Yes.
That's where the scary part is. Yeah, but being on stage, man, I'm very bold.
It's interesting that you say that you're afraid of stepping into your own self. I don't know where someone said that we're more afraid of our light than, you know, to stand up and to actually shine out and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and I'm okay with it, than to then not, right? So it's quite interesting how you're okay to play, but you're not okay to say, hey, this is Dave Greene and I'm awesome, and look at me here.
Well, I think promoting myself and talking about myself and what I do. That's a part that I'm working on. I've got a couple of mentors that are helping me to straighten that part out. Which is, when you ask, how am I dealing with it? I've got a couple of mentors that are helping me to straighten that out. But walking the path myself. I mean, it's. I'm not gonna candy coat it. It's rough.
Yes.
It's very rough. I'm doing it, but it's rough.
But it's a process. It's like one step in front of the other, right? And
yes. And it's also, realizing that a lot of those fears that I have about that, I mean, some of them are very unwarranted.
Yes.
And when I take action to go into that direction, I see how much of just a smoke screen it is. So the thing is being bold enough to take the action instead of being fearful of some imaginary thing that may happen. And that's the thing that goes on in here that pretty much keeps me or anybody else stuck.
I know, right? It's the head. It's for me as well. It's my head and the stories that I tell myself in my head that just sometimes keep you stuck, and that's it. So you have to say, be quiet, and I'll do it anyway, which takes a lot of courage.
It takes a lot of courage, but I think it takes, in addition to courage, it takes somebody helping you to do it.
Yes.
Yes.
Because
a lot of that thing I can't actually figure out by myself, but there are those who specialize in that area that can point and say, hey, this is how you get rid of that programming. This is how so it's important to be coachable.
Yes, that's very important.
Coachable.
And it's always, it always helps to have someone to hold your hand and to just guide you, or to just be there, than to be totally on your own. It's hard on your own to take these stories out of your head. So
the right person.
Yes, that's another thing, to find the right person. But when you do, then it works out beautifully. So you're on your way to overcome all these fears, right?
Well, daily, momentarily.
What do they say in AA? One day at a time, or wherever. So 1 day at a time, right? Or 1 minute at a time.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about you. You mentioned about you've got an idiom that says no rush, no waiting, no fail. Where does that come from? And tell us a bit about the story behind that.
Well, a lot of the people that work with me, I'm very laid back when I work, and I learned that from working with the main artist that I learned that with was Tom Petty, because in that atmosphere it was very laid back, but the amount of work that was done was incredible. I mean, we moved at an extremely fast pace, but there was no tensions or things like that. So I kind of picked that up. But the focus is always, for me, it's very narrow, but it's not tense. I mean, sometimes if I'm working with people and I'm in a consulting type, a relationship, I would do this, but okay.
Right.
So it's very laid back, but very directed. I mean, I remember when we worked with Tom recording the albums. We recorded a lot of them in his studio in Van Nuys, and it was called the Clubhouse. And it was it was laid back, but the level those guys were operating on, like sometimes a band, if they were putting together an album, they would take like a year, 2 years to put together an album.
Yes.
These guys knock it off in a month.
Wow.
I mean, it's going that fast. I mean, from a time where, Tom would just play something on the guitar. He'd say, okay, I got something. It kind of goes like this, but, and the band would listen. Then they get on the instrument and play. Within 2 hours, those tracks are done.
Gee. The power of focus, right? As well.
Yeah, focus and some very seasoned dudes.
For sure. So you also, I have to ask you this one. Ringo Starr. What did you do with Ringo Starr? Did you play with Ringo Starr as well?
Well, I didn't play with him, but when I was playing with Joe on the Analog Man tour, we did. Well, do you know the relationship between Joe Walsh and Ringo?
No, I don't actually.
Okay, but well, they're brother-in-laws. The wives are sisters. It's Marjorie Walsh and Barbara Bach. Remember Barbara Bach? That's Ringo's wife. She was like one of the James Bond girls, early James Bond girls. Barbara Bach. But anyway, we were doing the album release. We were doing the album release in Los Angeles at a place called the Troubadour, and I remember the stage on the Troubadour was too small for the band. So everything was pretty much congested on the stage. I mean, the singers were like in the staircase. You know? I mean, it was but so Joe's guy came up to me, you know, after we set up, and he said, "Dave, we're going to have like a guest drummer, and you know, would you make sure that he, you know, he gets in behind the drum kit without falling over anything?"
Yes,
because we had like 2 drum kits. And I said, "Okay, cool. I'll you know, I'll take care of it." So I said, "Who's the drummer?" He said, "Ringo Starr." I said, okay, this is interesting. so
It must be fun.
so the audience was pretty much industry people, and then there were, you know, the musicians, the artists, the movie stars, and all that stuff. So I was kind of walking around the audience, and I remember Ringo, his wife, and Joe, they kind of walked past me, and, you know, I looked at them, but, you know, I didn't say anything. I looked at Joe, you know, I just kind of gave him, you know, the pass, you know, go ahead along, you know, you got to be respectful.
Right.
So when we did the show, there were actually 2 people that sat in. One was Jeff Lynne, and he was, Jeff Lynne is, I think he was REO Speedwagon or one of those bands, but he also produced Tom's stuff. He produced well, he produced the Ringo stuff with George Harrison. He was up in that area. He sat in until he was us. And he played the whole band already, was fat. That band went like boom. I mean, but anyway, at the end of the show, right, Ringo came up and he played the last song. So when they were getting off stage, I mean, I was teching and playing, you know, percussion in that band. So I got out my flashlight, and, you know, because I know where all the wires are, so I'm shining it on the floor, getting the musicians off the stage. So Ringo walks off the end of the from behind the stage, and he's about 10 feet from me, and he looks at me, right, and our eyes lock, and he has this big smile on his face, and he walks over to me and he says, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" and we give each other a hug, right? And this is not like a regular guy hug. A regular guy hug is like 2 seconds and we're done.
Yes.
We were like there for like 5 seconds. This is a long guy hug. So you know, so we did that, and he bounced off of the stage. And I remember the band guys, you know, looked at me and said, "Dave, what was that all about?" I said, "Man, I'd never met the man before in my life." But there is a lot of love coming off of that dude. A lot of love coming off of that dude, man.
Right. Well, that was exciting.
Well, quite a bit. And in fact, I work with many years later. I work with. Let me tell you this from without telling me who it was. Right, there was this guy and his wife. The guy was like a British punk rockish kind of guitarist, and his wife was like an eclectic singer. And the band that they had, the backup band was like 3 guys, like straight out of Jamaica. I mean, reggae guys, straight up reggae guy. So the sound was incredible because it had this reggae undertone with a British rock guitar on it and an eclectic female voice.
Wow.
So, I mean, I was blown away with the sound. So when I finished that gig, it was a quick gig here in LA. And I was telling the guys back on, I went back with Joe Walsh, and I was telling the guys that I work with this cat, Zach, and telling him about the sound. And they were saying, well, his father is a pretty good drummer, you know. So, you know, I heard that and went in one ear, out the other ear. So I told somebody else, and again, they said, well, you know, his father is a pretty good drummer. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? Who is his father? I said, well, his father is Ringo.
Ah.
I did not put
Who was that
the
then?
connection together. Huh?
Who was it? Billy? No.
It was Zach Starkey, which is Ringo's son.
Ringo's son. Wow.
And his wife Shush. and that couple, again, they've got the same love that comes off of Ringo. It comes off of them. And I mean, there's just an incredible vibe. But I had no idea it was Ringo's son. and I did that gig for like about 2 weeks.
I love that. So have you found freedom in all this? Have you found freedom?
No, freedom is a have I found freedom? No. No, because in I would say in certain things yes, and in a lot of things no. Because we're living here on Earth. Freedom is not something that's running rampant. You know, very, very few of us, if any, are free. I mean, if you're living in a human body, you're not free. You know, so that's the overarching thing on freedom. I mean, there's a lot of how would I put it? Well, yeah. I mean, we're not free. I mean, we're trying to be as free as possible, but we're not. You're going to have to ask me some pointed questions for me to figure out what I'm saying.
So what does freedom mean to you besides, okay, you know, like from an esoteric point of view and a spiritual point of view, we're stuck in this body, right? But yes. we could be free anyway, even in this body, or not?
Yeah. I mean, again, yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, for me, I would push it to the max that I could in here, you know, being here on Earth. But if you look at things like financially freedom, am I financially free? No. Am I free to say anything I want to say? No. You know? I mean, there's different things happening where you have to be strategic with what it is you say. You're not free to do it. So when you're looking at, I mean, when you ask me something like freedom, I mean, there's a lot of restrictions that we have to deal with living here on Earth, but you know, we do the best that we can.
What about, don't you feel free when you roller skate?
Well, I wouldn't call it free. I mean, I'd call it happy. Okay. But I wouldn't call it free. It's not restrictive. But I wouldn't put that under the category of freedom. I mean, if I roller skated and I could roller skate anywhere that I wanted to roller skate, including like the 405 freeway, if I can go that fast.
That could be a challenge.
You know, and that would be freedom on the roller skate. You know, I mean, there's some place that you can't skate. You know, I mean, there's restricted places, like, let's say, if you went into Beverly Hills, you can't go through Beverly Hills with roller skates or a bicycle or an electric scooter. That's not freedom. You know, so in a sense, you know, looking at freedom, I push the envelope as much as I can, but in no way do I think I am free. Looking at all of the laws that are in place in different countries, around the world, people are not free to do anything they want to do. They're governed by a lot of laws and regulations. Some of them warranted, some of them not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So it's really about what your interpretation of freedom is, I guess, because everyone sees it as different.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just seeing you. I'm sorry, it's my author's mind, but I have to. I see you like hanging onto, a bus and holding onto the review, the mirror of the bus on your roller skates while the bus goes along the 405 and you holding on. Okay, that's
kind of funny. I used to do that in the Bronx with my bicycle. Hold on to the bus and take a ride.
Yeah, it is so funny. So what's the future now for Dave? What are you doing exactly besides your t-shirts? What are you doing in your studio?
Well, right now I'm now opening it up to artists and singer-songwriters that to work on their works. When the pandemic shut down, I pretty much shut this place down, so it was just me here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just beginning to open it back up. So one of the I'm working with an artist right now. Her name is Jennifer Freedom, and she's a singer-songwriter. But a lot of the problems that singer-songwriters have is that, when they write and record a song, they get it to a certain point, and it just doesn't have that thing to it. That thing that that makes it a great song. So
yes.
So pretty much, when she brings it in here, that's my focus. That's how I'm able to help different artists. Whether it's putting a real drum groove on it where it takes the song from this point to this point, or arranging the instruments and kind of doing this with their input, and that all comes again from being around the different people that I've been around.
Yes,
I kind of learned that by osmosis. Which is kind of funny. You used to hang around those seasoned guys. It's like Tarzan. Remember Tarzan?
Yes.
He got lost in the jungle or whatever, and he was raised by apes.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, he can speak to animals. And he can swing through trees, and it's kind of like that's the way I feel. Just being around those guys, I'm able to do these things. It wasn't like a formal education, but you just kind of pick up how these guys are.
Yes,
it rubs off on you. So that's what I bring to artists in here. So in terms of getting back out into the music community and helping artists in that way, that's pretty much what I do in here.
Oh, that sounds beautiful, and you've obviously got also a feel for it now because you love it so much. You also have a feel, besides learning everything through osmosis and being in the company of all these great stars. You've also developed this feel, and like on an intuitive level, I suppose, what's good and what needs to be.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to, if you're on stage, night after night listening to great songs, these are 40 years of hits.
Yes.
Not just regular song hits. But if you're listening to it just because you're working in the atmosphere, boom, boom. It's just, where things are. Where things need to be. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. But my music didn't start then, though. I mean, my whole family was musical. So as kids, I mean, my parents had us playing piano as kids, and that was like from 3 years old, from the time we could play. And there's a lot of also music in our in the rest of our family, like the ancestors, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. My mom's father and her brother, they were called the Mutu brothers, mm-hmm. and they were in the calypso world, and they were. Have you heard of the Funk Brothers? Have you ever heard of a group called the Funk Brothers?
No.
Well, the Funk Brothers were. You heard of Motown, the Motown sound?
Yes. Nice.
Okay, the group that did all of the music for Motown, that was the Funk Brothers. Those were the guys that had that sound. So my mom's dad and her brother, they were like the Funk Brothers in the calypso world.
Wow.
Okay. And on my dad's side, we had there was a composer by the name of Rudolph Dunbar, and he was the first Black composer to conduct the Berlin Philharmonic.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of music history, that's behind it. I didn't just start when I started teching.
Yes. So you see, it's like in your blood. So you know what's right and what's wrong, and that's beautiful, actually.
Yeah, sometimes, because everybody falls off a tree once in a while. Every once in a while, a monkey swinging in the tree falls.
It happens, but then you just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, like they say, and you start all over again.
And keep going.
And just fight that self-doubt in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And also then you've also got the t-shirts as well. So you're doing both. It's like a nice combination of both businesses.
It's all part of the same thing, because the what's behind it is the creative flow, and with the creative flow, it kind of doesn't matter what it is you point it at. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at a lot of the artists, they do other creative things also. I mean, a lot of times you don't see it in the media, but when they put that force on anything, I mean, it has pretty much the same effect.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what you point it at. But for me, with the in the music arena, I mean, you have merchandise. So creating merchandise, that's something we do here. A lot of that was honed when I had the screen printing plant, because what I did there was design and develop merchandise programs for other businesses. When we worked for the studios, we worked for West Point in New York. Mm-hmm. That was one of our biggest clients, actually. West Point, the Academy.
Wow.
That was one of our biggest clients. But all of those things come into play in what I'm doing here. So it's it's all inclusive.
Mm. Yeah? So it's a beautiful synergy of everything.
Yes.
So, Dave, where can people find you?
Huh?
Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. I think it's david.stephen.greene on Facebook. It's an open account, so you can see things there. You can find me on Instagram at dave.greene.productions, and Greene has an E on the end. You can find me street style t-shirts on Instagram. And you can find me here at the pad, but don't everybody come.
It's not or roller skating in LA, right?
or roller skating in LA.
Dave, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for being here and for having this conversation with me. It's been such an honor and a pleasure. And I wish you so much luck with everything.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. So thank you, Dave, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Okay. Thanks, Korean. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Peace.
Bye. Peace, yes.